first, I wasn't going to record this at first because, I just haven't made exactly the amount of money that I want to make, and I know that I'm building the value towards. But I was like, yo, man, this is probably the best time to actually do it, just because there's probably more people in my position or in a similar position trying to figure out how they're going to get to the money level that they want to get to. So I said to myself, like, you know what, let me just push myself and let's just explore and see where this goes. And within all of this, I'm still trying to increase my money vision. The money is everywhere. It's all around us. It's in financial institutions and shopping experiences and products and advertisements and all different things. And then in those smaller pockets, the exchange that you get when you see somebody on the street, selling hats or DVD. I mean, not DVDs no more. You can tell I'm a millennial and shit. But whatever it is on the street, they selling whatever they selling, and food or this or that, or they got clothes and all these different types of things. It's like, can you see the opportunities that are all around you? That's what I'm trying to increase, because I have different skills, and most people have some set of skills, and sometimes it's hard to translate that creative idea or that skill set that you have into money. Sometimes it's harder to see how that's going to translate, what's the end audience going to be and who you're going to sell it to. What is it going to be, a product or a service? Will it, end up being in, a larger market? Who is my target market? Who is the actual person that I'm selling to? Like, what does that look like? Who is that? What does that person look like? Where are they at on a regular basis? These are the questions over time you kind of, start to kind of ask yourself, as you learning, about how to build things for yourself. And one of my favorite movies is a movie called War Dogs. In the beginning of the movie, it starts out with, a scene of showing some soldiers, and the soldiers got their rifles and there's tanks and helmets and boots and, just all the normal, gear. And the voice of the actor that's, narrating is saying, like, while the average person sees just your standard soldier in a war, he's like, what I see is helmets, combat boots, tanks, rifles, bullets, all the combat gear that costs money, this, that, boom. But he was a gun runner, basically. But what he saw was much different than what the average person would see. So it was like, can you see money opportunities in day-to-day situations as you go into the, store, when you running past 55, businesses? Do you have skill sets that can apply to those businesses? Do you have creative ideas that can apply to those businesses? When you walking or you driving past people that are doing whatever they're doing, do you have solutions for those people that can bring some kind of value? Whether it's a group of people listening to, somebody speak, or is somebody standing, side of the street waiting for their food to come out from the food truck. Can you implement an idea for the person? Can you implement an idea for the food truck? It's like all of these different things all around us all day, nonstop. So that was a big light bulb moment for me when I saw that movie. I was like, yo, that's kind of ill. It reminds me of another show that I was watching called Billions. The main character, Bobby Axe, I think it's Bobby Axe. He's like a hedge fund manager. So he's in his kitchen and he's like talking to one of the guys that's like a new intern or a new employee, and he's schooling him on how to just look at businesses on a day-to-day at that level. And he said, every day put a company in your mouth. At first I was like, hey, yo, that was crazy. But and like over the next 15, 20 seconds, I was like, that was kind of ill though. Every day put a company in your mouth. It still sounds crazy. A super pause, like, hold up. But the sentiment was like, every day be consuming information about businesses that you're going to acquire. It was like, that's something that people who are of a wealthy mindset and of a producing mindset is on a regular basis. Like, that's just what they see. That helped me kind of spark some different ideas. Like, yo, what am I doing every day that allows me to grow from a money standpoint? Because I work a job. I work a job like most people, and I'm building. I do music. and filmmaking and content and writing books, and I'm still trying to figure out how to promote everything. But, until that time, I'm still working jobs. I'm still figuring out how to, get entrepreneurship as my like default way of operating. And I have the ideas of building products and, membership ideas and, services that could be helpful for people. And then, eventually building my music career at, live shows and then albums and, films that tie into the music and merch ideas for the brand I want to build. And all of those things kind of connect. But for right now, I'm still, working. And it was like, it kind of dawned on me like the programming that I have that's correlated to money is more 9 to 5 than it is, anything else. So I was like, I got to kind of figure out a way to, to connect the more entrepreneurial driven mindset, because one day I came across a little ebook that I was reading. It's the same title as, the video. It's called Money is Everywhere. I'll try to find the author's name, but I think it's like Joe Schuberger or something like that. But it was called Money is Everywhere. And, was reading through, it's a short read, but I was reading through it. It pointed to a question that said, how many times a day are you asking for money? And it made me think like, okay, well, asking for money, you got to really be talking about the market, asking the market, where money is already flowing. You got to be asking the market for money. So I thought about it. It's like, okay, I work a job. Whether you work a job, similarly, you probably get paid either 4 times a month or 2 times a month, bi-weekly or weekly, whatever. So I was like, okay, then there's somebody is out there who's, selling products, and they have, their website is selling products for them, or they have a team of people marketing or this and that. So let's say, they have their products and the product is being pushed on a regular basis. Let's say 5 times a day, right? So that's 5 times a day for 30 days for a month. So I'm like, wait a minute. It started kind of dawning on me. I'm like, wait a minute. This person is asking the market 150 times a month for money. And me, I'm only able to really ask the market for money 2 to 4 times a month. So when I started to think about it, I was like, I'm getting smoked no matter what, because that's only if that's 5 times a day for 30 days. That's if they only doing that with one product. What if they got multiple products? I'm like, hold up, I got to figure this out. So that has been a route that I've been like taking for myself to push where I see all of these things going. Eventually from all the skills I'm building out, we'll start to try to develop products that will help people with filmmaking skills and music skills and, all of the other things I've developed over time, even with just like systems I've built and things I've kind of, understood over time with the, project management softwares I've worked with and different things. The systems really helped me, kind of get organized, understand what I'm building, and understand the trajectory of like the things that I want to eventually sell. This is kind of a break off of a blog I already wrote on my Xovereign Studios website. I kind of go through the 3 systems that are helping me kind of facilitate, my ideas. And it's the learning systems, then I got creation systems, and then I'm building now more so sales systems. And so the learning systems really just help you build out a repeatable system, a repeatable way for you to continually learn what you need to learn and how you learn, because everybody kind of learns differently. So you got to figure out your own, your own learning flow. And then my creation systems are things that help build my workflows with, writing books and content stuff, workflows with music, having drum kits and stuff already loaded up, having, vocal stuff kind of, prepared for myself, kind of being able to just pick a sound and, work with things or sample or whatever. And then the sales systems is something I'm kind of like building out now. And that's all related to how can this email campaign or this, sales funnel or this whole world I'm building, How can each component of this, sales system, funnels, email campaigns, this, that, whatever it is, how can it push this product or this group of products in a repeatable way? So I'm figuring out a lot of that now, and it's helping me kind of really understand a little bit more of the entrepreneurial process and how people get to, scale what they're doing, because you have everybody works, for money in a way, you know what I mean? But I do think it's two kind of different groups. Basically, fixed time, where like no matter what, it's like a direct correlation of exchange for dollars for hours. You work this amount of hours, even if you can make $15 an hour, you can make $1,500 an hour, but that's it. Wherever that number is, it's exchanged directly for the amount of hours, and and you are the asset, as opposed to somebody who has more like who's able to leverage their time, in a way. They build out assets, and then assets kind of work, for them. So the asset could be anything. The assets that you own from investments, and the investments could work for you, or assets that you actually create yourself, products you have, ideas that you can turn into different things, services, business that eventually grows to whatever it is. But the asset that you build becomes the workhorse at that point. To me, though, that's a major difference, because you can scale the leverage time. You can scale that because you can build out as many assets or many products as you can think of. Like, even if I got a better job or, a better situation money-wise for what I'm trying to do, if I'm still in that fixed time slot, it kind of still puts me in that, that pocket. And even if it was like a freelancer gig or some sort of thing where I can, get clients, whatever, I'm still kind of stuck in a way where it's like I'm the asset working for, this amount of hour exchange. That's what I realized was like, okay, little by little, let me figure out what these things could be for me. Because in the whole scheme of things, there's a mission and a purpose and an alignment that I think people are also really looking for. That, what is the fulfillment I'm going to get that's attached to whatever this money I'm searching for is going to be. Because, there's 50 million ways to make money. And I think, just with the internet and AI and all of these different, tools and technology that we have, we know kind of how to make money in different ways from a, theoretical standpoint. Like, there's people who's doing real estate and stocks and, drop shipping and selling digital planners and on eBay, hustling with clothes, selling sneakers and this and that and da-da-da, There's 50 gazillion different opportunities out there, but there is a process that you kind of got to go through to figure out what lane is going to drive you to get the fulfillment that you want out of your life purpose. Like, what am I going to get out of this money? Because money ultimately, I'm realizing, is basically just a tool. No matter how much of it we get, is basically a tool to make better decisions and more quality decisions. So, if your thing is, clothes and cars and homes and stuff, you're just going to buy better versions of that. If it's technology and, computers and musical instruments and this and that, you're going to get better versions of that. Or, your thing might be vacations and traveling and private jets and ill whips and whatever. It gives you opportunity to make decisions faster. That's why my brain is like, it's the ultimate tool. But there is a fulfillment aspect that I think people instinctively have that, makes them not just go chase every money opportunity. That's why I think it's, dope to be able to go on whatever journey you need to go on and figure out what's the mission I'm after, what's the purpose I'm after, what am I trying to build, what do I want to say to the world, what do I want to give to the world, what do I want to, help the world with. That's where I think you get the best of both sides. You get the achievement side, where it's, business goal, money goal, how to distribute things to people, understanding, what people want, how to build a product for a specific audience, but then that product is also tied to something that's really personal for you, or expresses who you are in a way, and you can put some love into it, put some, feeling and put you into it. You know what I mean? So that's what I've been learning, figuring out my different ways of putting ideas together and how the money connects with that. It's really like, for me, learning a second language. For me, my first understanding of that money connection and where I'm gonna make my money, this and that. That my first language is, kind of like what everybody else's is. You work a job, and get money however you can. You might hustle on the side and do whatever little things, to make some extra money, but the bulk of your money comes from, whatever job you may do. But this other side of it, being able to turn ideas into assets that eventually scale into, revenue streams for you, that's really a second language for me. And I understand some of it. I understand some phrases here and there. But when things kind of get frustrating or, out my depth of knowledge, or things are moving fast, almost like, when somebody's talking fast, I really just want to revert back to the first language. So it's kind of been, tough and challenging to figure out, how to expand on it and how to push myself to always be speaking that, second language. But, little by little, day by day, I'll figure it out. And, if you feel the same way, as long as we both just remember the money is all around us. It is everywhere. It's floating around us. You just got to find your different ways to catch it.